Welcome to another Friday Faceoff. It's Eric Chase, Matt Shepard. It's going to get a little fiery on today's Friday Faceoff. We're glad you're here at WDFN.com. Now, I spoke about this a couple weeks ago. I'm surprised this wasn't a huge story, but I guess when you're the San Francisco Giants, you don't get a national story. Shep was on this the other day.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the orange D against the white D.
Home and road, no. So a couple weeks ago, Bruce Bochy, who is welcoming back Buster Posey, who suffered that devastating leg injury at home plate last year, flat out said, Buster, don't block the plate anymore. Don't put yourself in harm's way. However, there was a caveat. Bruce Bochy, Major League veteran catcher, one of the best managers, I think maybe the best manager in some polls in all of baseball, said, we're going to work around this. We're going to keep you safe. Play smart. But he said, and this pissed off a lot of purists, maybe one of them is to my right.
That's right.
He said, don't block the plate.
Well, I would say Mike Scioscia's a better manager. Mike Scioscia also had a long stint as a catcher in Major League Baseball. And last I checked, he's not telling Mike Napoli, or Mike Napoli plays for Texas, he's not telling his catchers to not block the plate. I'm not saying Jim Leyland accomplished the same thing at the Major League level like Bruce Bochy did, but Jim Leyland was a catcher in the minor league system. He's won a lot of baseball games in his Major League career. He's not telling Alex Avila to block the plate. This is a perfect example of overreacting to something that has happened. You want to protect Buster Posey? Fine, I get it. Tell him to not allow his legs to crawl underneath his butt when he gets checked or gets run over at home plate. Tell him to brace himself a little bit better. Teach him a better technique on how to absorb the hit of guys rounding third heading into home plate rather than saying don't block it at all. Because me as a base runner, when I get that windmill and I'm headed toward home, I'm doing a hook slide, dragging my left hand by, and I'm going to score every time because I know Buster Posey's going to be way out, not blocking the dish, and he's going to have to try and sweep tag me, and I'll beat it every time.
It's a blanket statement, and Bochy did say that, hey, listen, we're going to teach that technique to keep you safe because, look, I know that one game in April is or could be viewed as important as one game in September. Ask the Red Sox. Win one game instead of starting like that.
Right.
You're in the playoffs. But Bochy's,
ask the Braves.
Bochy's the guy to teach that technique. But I think Buster Posey also has to be smart. Catchers, you know, a lot of good managers are catchers now. You brought up Scioscia. Buster Posey's also got to be kind of smart, too. Yeah. As competitive as he might be, if you're up 8-2 in the 7th inning and it's one run, you know, listen, do what you can to keep yourself safe. Because I'll argue that Buster Posey, if he plays all of last year, the Giants arguably get to defend their World Series. But without Posey for more than, I believe, 100 games last year, losing arguably their MVP from the team, right, the guy that handles that stellar staff, he was gone, and they didn't have a capable replacement. You got to play smart, and if there's a guy who's going to teach it, it's going to be Bochy.
Well, I agree you got to play smart, but if that's the case, how come more and more managers aren't telling some of the elite catchers to do the same thing?
Maybe they are.
Why is Mike Napoli, why doesn't he have a problem with it? We saw it in the World Series a year ago and the ALCS and the times that he was run over. How come Moreno's not doing that in Arizona? How come guys like Alex Avila aren't being taught that? How come Yadier Molina, who's the best defensive catcher in baseball for the St. Louis Cardinals, isn't fearing the same thing that Buster Posey is? Just because he hasn't a broken leg, I don't buy it.
A lot of veterans that you just named, guys who might have taken on and absorbed more collisions at home plate, played the position a little bit longer.
Except for Avila.
Yeah. And I'd argue, I love all those guys. Napoli,
Montero has been, what, around for, what, 5-6 years, something like that?
Hasn't really locked down a position until he did it last year.
Right.
And I'd argue that those guys, while they're very good and they do mean something to their team, none of those guys means as much to their team as Buster Posey does, especially as offensively as limited as they are. We'll watch it every time somebody's coming around third base in a tight game at San Francisco this year. If we ever watch any of their games, we'll see where Buster Posey is positioned. What do you think? WDFN.com is the Friday Faceoff. Eric Chase, Matt Shepard, thanks for being here. We'll see you next Friday.